if I'm looking at the stock market as a whole, it's very hard to be bearish on anything. But there's one name in particular that has a lot of risk associated with it, with where it's at right now. Now, I don't think over the long run that this stock is going to be bearish, but I do think in the short term, there's a lot of concerns that we aren't talking all about. And the name is obviously MicroStrategy. Now, a few things that we need to talk about first, and we need to establish the concerns. Number one is what's happening with the NASDAQ. If we look at the NASDAQ, this is your all-time high for NQ. You're right here at 2145. You are currently breaking out, and this is the daily chart of a daily, basically kind of lower highs you're making, pushing back into all-time highs. Will you get there? I don't know. If you look at SPY, you can also see you're breaking out into all-time highs as well as we speak. So again, the stock market is pushing relative all-time highs, and it's there right now. But if you look at something like Bitcoin, this is where things get confusing, because as of right now, Bitcoin is showing quite a bit of weakness. You can see Bitcoin kind of double topping somewhat there. And if you were to break below 90K, I would have to assume you push down towards 74 to 75K. Now, how do I come up with those levels? What am I looking at? If you look at just what's happening based on volume where buying has occurred most frequently here, you can just look basically going back into November 2023 or just even the beginning of this past year. And you'll find that all your volume lies in two spots, basically from 74K where you consolidated down to 55K. And then more recently, since Trump got elected, between 108K all the way down to 92, 90K roughly. That's where everything is. This little inflection point in the middle here is what we call illiquidity. There's not a lot of volume. And if sellers push you down here, you could drop quick. Because a rule of thumb to imagine when you're looking at the stock market, if you go up quick, you can go down just as quick. And that's a big viewpoint. You need to understand that this to this down to 74, 75K, there is nothing. You went in a straight line from that area. Now, what I will say, the benefits of what's happening right now, NASDAQ is at all-time highs, right? That is a benefit you have to think about, is that the stock market looks very healthy. The problem is you're not following the stock market anymore since Trump got elected and since the beginning of the year. Will you follow? I hope so. I really do want to see MicroStrategy and the rest of these names continue their run. We made a lot of money off of Coinbase and MicroStrategy both. And I think those are the best crypto names. If you're looking to go long on Bitcoin, you want a stock, I think MicroStrategy and Coinbase are the clear winners. But as of right now, with the NASDAQ going up and Bitcoin going down, in my opinion, it only makes sense that these crypto names look like fantastic hedges. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'm looking to go long on names like NVIDIA, right, or AVGO, or Apple, when it had this really nice dip and you made higher lows and you're breaking back up, or buying Amazon on this dip, or Google on this dip, whatever these stocks may be, whatever you're invested in, right? A good protection on myself could be going short on MicroStrategy and Coinbase based on the risk of going too heavy to the upside. Because when we look at MicroStrategy, there's a lot of concerns that we need to talk about here on higher timeframes as well. But we're going to dive into what exactly the issues are with MicroStrategy, because it's not just Bitcoin. That's the most important part that we understand. So if you don't understand what the business model of MicroStrategy is, and I might butcher it, but I want to just explain it to you like you're 5 years old. MicroStrategy basically over the past few years, really past 10 years, just buys Bitcoin, stores it up. They may dilute, and unlike most companies that dilute, they just dilute to buy more Bitcoin. But if they raise money, it's to buy more Bitcoin. The whole function of the company is to have a lot of Bitcoin and capitalize off the gains there. Now, it's worth mentioning, right? If we look at the total, I wish I had the exact number here. Let me make sure I can see. Yeah. So MicroStrategy's holdings surpassed 450,000 Bitcoin in January 2025, making it the second largest corporate holder of the asset in the world. Okay. According to MicroStrategy website, MicroStrategy currently holds 461 BTC. They bought 11,000 more, valued at around $49 billion, up 68% on its investment, which again, this is a very profitable idea in business so far. And if you look at MicroStrategy's market cap, I will say this is pretty solid. Your market cap is $87 billion, and your assets as far as Bitcoin are concerned are sitting at roughly $50 billion. That's solid. I mean, really looking at what's happening there. If you look at the function, the longevity of Bitcoin, where you see it going, most analysts, this is smart. And then the other part of this too is you have to think about what's happening as far as the government getting involved in Bitcoin and buying it. So that's the positive of Bitcoin. That's the positive of MicroStrategy and what they're doing, and it's worked so far. Now, the concern, short term, is MicroStrategy faces concerns based upon paying taxes more recently for this year. And they've kind of wiggled their way around to make this less risky for them. Okay. And I think they're out of the issue in the short term as far as their debt buyback, convertible notes. They have a lot of ways that they're getting around this right now. So that's not really the concern. The concern for me is, what do you think happens to MicroStrategy as a whole, which again has disconnected from following the NASDAQ as of right now. It is not following the NASDAQ. And a good rule of thumb, I can actually bring in NQ right here so you can see, just overlay it really quickly. What we'll do, we'll bring in QQQ so it's a little bit more exact. So it's quicker. You can see, I wish it was right over it. But you can see the little ripples right here, right? So hovering over, you're basically sitting at those all-time highs here. MicroStrategy is just making lower highs off that. And again, if you need a better visual, they changed some of their ways you can lay this out. But you can see QQQ is pushing back in all-time highs. And again, if you look at that time period back here, December 16th, 2024, you go into MicroStrategy, look what's happening there. Around November 20th, December 24th was right about December 16th, 14th was up here. But again, you've just made lower highs and less buying momentum's happened off that. So a good rule of thumb when you're looking at buying names, buying stocks, whatever it may be, is you're trying to follow the NASDAQ. You're trying to follow where the money's going. And ideally, if you're going long, you want to go long on strong overall names, strong overall stocks, and follow where the big money is going. Now, there's still money coming into MicroStrategy, but I will say, if Bitcoin starts to drop, because MicroStrategy's chart looks a lot like Bitcoin's, in my opinion, this will get destroyed. This will be, and I don't want to say you're going to get destroyed to zero because that's not what I mean, okay? But what I will say is I think you could quickly come down to 75, maybe even 80K on the conservative side. And if that happens, you have to assume that MicroStrategy, which again is following the Bitcoin chart, actually a little bit weaker, could push all the way back down towards 200, maybe 220. And that will happen quick. Remember how fast you went up back here in November? Again, I think it could be a very similar type of situation as well. You have multiple gaps to fill as well, all the way back down to 280. So again, things that I'm watching right now. Now, again, I will also highlight that over the past week, as you look at what happened near the end of this week, you did find some buying. So I want to be very clear. I'm not saying to go hammer shorts on Microsoft. That is not my viewpoint here. My viewpoint is that there's an extreme risk surrounding crypto and surrounding MicroStrategy in the short term. Do I think the risk to reward for the upside makes a lot of sense here? Not necessarily. You go look at Coinbase as well, which I think these stocks move pretty similar. Coinbase has had their earnings and they destroyed. They actually posted really good earnings alongside of Robinhood. And a lot of this came from, November, the rally from Trump getting elected. But Coinbase continues to track back down to the downside. And again, you can also see Coinbase here on the 200 daily moving average as well, which could start coming back down to that level near 240, which would line up back with those lows you had back in December as well. So again, things that you definitely have to be looking for and where MicroStrategy and the overall crypto market is at. I don't think it's his levels of extreme fear and concern, but I definitely think if Bitcoin takes a hit, I think you'd be an idiot to assume that MicroStrategy won't take a hit. And that's where the main concern really lies. Now, a few other names that you guys often talk about are Riot, right? This is another big one, and Mara. These names, I cover these quite a bit on Twitter. I joke around, and I don't know why you'd want to buy this name. Going back into 2023, July, you've only made lower highs. You've been necessarily in a bear trend. You're making lower lows and lower highs. If I go into Mara as well, again, it's the same story here. Lower highs, terrible action. I mean, you're literally back where you were back in June 2023. So despite Bitcoin pushing up to new all-time highs, Mara could not push to all-time highs. These companies are profitable. They make no sense to invest in. That's my personal opinion. So again, you have to also understand, over time, Bitcoin will get more and more expensive to mine. If these companies aren't making money now, they're going to even make it less money in the longer term. So definitely what you should be thinking about, my personal opinion. And people aren't going to like my opinion, but that's the point of the channel, that you're getting a viewpoint that is transparent, honest, and not biased. And I could be wrong. That's another big visual here. I have been wrong on a few names. I didn't think SoundHound would get a pump. It did get a pump. I think BBI is trash. It did get a pump. So there's, I will be wrong. That's very important to understand. I encourage you to always do your own research about what you're looking at and what you're looking for in the market. But again, I have to point out ideas and opportunities in the market that I think are good and can hopefully put people in a good position regarding their portfolios and what they're doing every single day when it comes to trading. Because again, I do think it's a very difficult game, and I try to provide the best content that I can possible. So this is, again, one of those downside names that I've been watching very, very closely, and I do think MicroStrategy is a name that you have to keep an eye on. A few more things before I let you guys out of here as well. If you guys are not following or you don't already know about the Discord, the link is down below so you can get all of our updates, what we're looking at. Premier Access will give you access to complete entries and things along those lines. But we do have the more affordable starter plan, which gives you access to all the technicals, what we're looking at there, our futures rundown, Jay's watch list every morning, things along those lines, and then obviously our text alerts for the premium access. But I do want to say too, if you're not following on Twitter, I recommend doing so. I'm trying to get more active at posting all the updates possible for what I'm looking at overall in the market. But again, it's always there. I try to keep you guys up to date as well as far as news is concerned, and then updates that I'm doing throughout the day, whether it be a short video, whatever it may be. I do live streams on there as well. So again, have a good one, traders. See you guys tomorrow. Good luck trading.